9-year-old Oliver Reed stood near the sliding doors of St. Mary's Hospital, clutching a crumpled piece of paper so tightly that his small hands trembled. Outside, rain hammered the sidewalks of Chicago, and strangers hurried past without looking up. Oliver's sneakers were soaked, his hoodie 2 sizes too big, and the bruise under his left eye was turning yellow. To everyone else, he looked like just another tired child waiting for someone. But Oliver wasn't waiting. He was searching. Every few minutes he glanced nervously toward the parking lot as if afraid someone might appear. Then he saw her. A woman in a gray business coat stepped through the hospital entrance, balancing a coffee in one hand and her phone in the other. She looked exhausted, like someone carrying the weight of the world silently on her shoulders. Oliver studied her for a second, then slowly walked toward her. As she passed, he slipped the folded note into her hand. "Please," he whispered, "don't let him see." Before the woman could react, the little boy disappeared into the crowd. Confused, she stopped near the information desk and unfolded the paper. In shaky handwriting it read, "My mom says good people still exist. I need one right now." Below the sentence was an address and one more line. "Please don't call the police first." The woman stared at the note, her heart suddenly pounding. Her name was Emily Carter, a corporate attorney who spent most of her life solving problems from behind polished office desks. She had come to the hospital to visit her father after another round of chemotherapy, and honestly, she barely had enough strength left for her own life. Her marriage had ended 6 months earlier. She worked 80-hour weeks. She slept with the television on because silence felt too heavy. But something about that handwriting shattered her, especially the words, "I need one right now." Emily looked around for the boy, but he was gone. For a moment, she considered giving the note to security. That would have been the logical thing, safe, responsible. Instead, she folded the paper carefully and slipped it into her pocket. 2 hours later, she stood in front of a worn apartment building on the south side of the city, staring at the address from the note. Rainwater dripped from the fire escape above her as she climbed the cracked stairs to apartment 3B. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. A muffled crash came from inside, followed by silence. Emily's stomach tightened. "Hello?" she called. "Oliver?" Suddenly, locks clicked open. The door moved an inch, and there he was. Oliver's face looked even smaller now. Fear filled his eyes. "You came," he whispered. Before Emily could answer, she heard shouting from another room. A man's voice, angry, drunk. Oliver flinched instantly. Then Emily understood. "Who is it?" the man barked from inside. Oliver panicked. "You have to go." But it was too late. Heavy footsteps approached the door. The man who appeared was tall, unshaven, and reeking of alcohol. His expression hardened the second he saw Emily. "Who are you?" Emily's instinct screamed at her to leave. But then she looked at Oliver standing behind him, terrified and frozen, and she remembered something her father once told her. When someone is drowning, you don't stand on the shore discussing the risks. So she straightened her shoulders. "I'm from the school district," she lied calmly. "We've had concerns about Oliver missing classes." The man's expression shifted instantly. Nervous. "He's fine." Oliver's thin arms that no child should ever carry. "No," she said softly. "He's not." For a tense second, nobody moved. Then the man cursed and slammed the door shut. Emily jumped backward. Oliver's frightened face vanished behind the wood. Her hands shook as she reached for her phone. But before she could dial, the door burst open again. Oliver ran out, barefoot, crying, and straight into her arms. "Please don't leave me here." Emily held him tightly while the man shouted from inside the apartment. Neighbors began opening doors. Lights flicked on. Someone yelled that the police were coming. Everything blurred after that. Police reports, questions, social workers, an ambulance. By midnight, Oliver sat wrapped in a hospital blanket beside Emily in the emergency room, silently eating crackers. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Oliver looked up. "My mom died last year," he said quietly. "She used to tell me if I was ever really scared, I should look for kind eyes." Emily felt tears sting her face. "And you picked me?" Oliver nodded. "You look sad," he said. "Sad people are usually nicer." That sentence broke something open inside her. Because he was right. Emily had spent years chasing promotions, money, perfection, yet somehow she had become emotionally invisible, even to herself. But this frightened little boy had seen her pain in one glance, and trusted her anyway. Over the next few weeks, Emily couldn't stop thinking about Oliver. She visited him regularly at the temporary foster center. She brought books because he loved adventure stories. She brought sneakers because his old ones had holes. She brought hot chocolate because he smiled every time he drank it. But slowly, she realized something else. Oliver wasn't the only one being saved. For the first time in years, Emily felt needed in a way no courtroom had ever made her feel. One snowy evening, as they sat together finishing a puzzle, Oliver asked quietly, "Do you think people can become family even if they're strangers first?" Emily looked at him across the table, his hopeful little face, his cautious eyes that had already seen too much life. And she answered honestly, "Yes," she whispered, "I think that's exactly how family begins sometimes." 8 months later, Emily stood nervously in a courthouse hallway holding Oliver's hand. The adoption papers rested on the judge's desk. Oliver wore a tiny blue tie and kept smiling so hard his cheeks hurt. When the judge officially declared them a family, Oliver squeezed Emily's hand and whispered, "Mom would have liked you." Emily could no longer hold back her tears. Outside the courthouse, snowflakes drifted softly through the winter air as reporters and strangers passed by, without realizing something extraordinary had just happened inside. One frightened little boy had slipped a note into a stranger's hand, and 2 broken lives had found a home in each other. Years later, Emily kept that note framed in her office. Whenever people asked why she left corporate law to start a nonprofit helping vulnerable children, she simply pointed to the faded paper. "My mom says good people still exist. I need one right now." She would smile and say, "Sometimes all it takes to change a life is deciding to answer when someone asks for help." And somewhere deep inside, she still believed the world changed that rainy afternoon, not because a wealthy lawyer rescued a little boy, but because a little boy reminded a hurting woman that kindness still mattered.